Welcome to the UEFA Friendship Cup 2025 between France and Australia. Football has brought all of us together. This wonderful sport is based on respect on and off the pitch. By showing respect for the teams, referee and your fellow spectators, we make football a better game for everyone. We remind you that there is no place for racism, but only for friendship. Bienvenue à la UEFA Friendship Cup 2025 opposant la France et l'Australie. Le football nous a tous rapprochés. Ce merveilleux sport est basé sur le respect sur et en dehors du terrain. En faisant preuve de respect à l'égard des équipes, de l'arbitre et des autres spectateurs, nous faisons du football un jeu meilleur pour tous. Nous vous rappelons qu'il n'y a pas de place pour le racisme, mais seulement pour l'amitié. A no-smoking policy is in operation at the UEFA Friendship Cup 2025 tournament. Any person using tobacco or e-cigarette products inside the stadium wall will be asked to stop immediately. Thank you for your respecting the no-smoking policy and enjoy the game. Une politique d'interdiction de fumer s'applique au tournoi de la Friendship Cup de l'UEFA 2025. Toute personne utilisant du tabac ou des produits d'e-cigarettes à l'intérieur de la cuvette du stade sera priée d'arrêter immédiatement. Merci de respecter la politique anti-tabac et de profiter du match. If the score is level at the end of normal playing time, the winner will be determined by penalty shootout. No extra time will be played. Si les deux équipes sont à égalité à la fin du temps réglementaire, le vainqueur sera déterminé par une séance de tir au but. Il n'y aura pas de prolongation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the teams of France and Australia. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez accueillir les équipes de France et de l'Australie.
Welcome everybody. The second match day at the UEFA Friendship Cup continues with this Group A meeting between France and Australia. Another fascinating clash of footballing cultures to come in this under-18 tournament in Nyon at the Colovre Sports Centre, directly opposite UEFA HQ on the western shore of Lake Geneva, from where the rain has been sweeping in, hence a slight 10-minute delay to kick off. These two nations were both beaten on penalties in their opening fixture, so they begin with 1 point each to their name and hoping to bounce back with a victory today. The action is on the way once we've heard the national anthems.
Please remain standing for the national anthem of France. Veuillez rester debout pour l'hymne national de la France.
So the stage is almost set. We've already seen the USA move clear at the top of Group A earlier today with a 2-0 victory over Argentina. Now it is the turn of France and Australia to try and keep themselves in contention for top spot. One of these nations will move second in the section at the conclusion. If you're not yet familiar with the format of the 8-team competition, it is split into two groups of 4 countries, representing 5 of the 6 global football confederations. And with every player at the competition needing to play a minimum of an hour across the 4 games, it's no surprise that the managers have opted to mix up their selections. Only 4 of this French side also started Sunday's opener against the USA. Rayan Messi Tanfouri scored twice as a sub in stoppage time to force a penalty shootout in that one, and the Strasbourg striker is rewarded with a start today. Amadou Doumbouya and Ilyes Selye in the back 4 have both made their senior debuts for Nice this season. As for Australia, they've made 6 changes to the side that started their first fixture against Argentina. There's a debut in goal for Sonny Isalako of Western Australian State side Perth Red Star. He was a late call-up to the squad and replaces Jay Ajanovic today. Crystal Palace forward Ryland Brownlee comes into attack along with Quinn McNichol of Brisbane Roar. Hayne Eames is a regular in the A-League with Central Coast Mariners. He starts in midfield, having seen the decisive penalty saved in the shootout on Sunday. Lawrence Wong and Medin Mehmeti are on the bench, having joined up with the squad only this week. They were part of the Melbourne City squad that won the A-League Grand Final on Saturday. Hussein Sanli is one of 11 referees working across this tournament. He's in charge today, usually operates here in the Swiss Challenger League, and also oversaw the Uruguay-Senegal game on match day 1. So the heavy rain has relented a little, which has caused the slight 10-minute delay to the advertised kick-off here, but we are almost good to go then. Second fixture for both of these nations, both beaten, as I mentioned, on penalties at the weekend. Each team playing 3 group games in a round-robin format. Then next week they'll play a 4th and final crossover fixture against the team that finished in the equivalent position in the other group to determine their overall ranking. But this is about more than just the football. It's about developing the players as individuals as well, broadening horizons on and off the field, involving the local community and learning from each other. The UEFA Friendship Cup, a platform for some of the world's most promising young players, but it is a youth tournament with a difference. And it's great to have you along with us to watch it as well. France in their change colours, all in the white. We'll get the action underway in a moment. They will play in this first half from left to right as we look at it. Team drawn from League academies, a number of whom have made senior debuts over the course of this season. For Australia, this is a young side with the intention of beginning the cycle for the 2027 Under-20 World Cup. The rest of their age range teams are already involved in international action elsewhere this summer. So Richard Garcia, the Under-23 assistant coach, has been put in charge of this Under-18 team to take their place at the tournament. Let's see what these sides have got then, what they've learned from that opening match day as well. Off and underway in Group A. France in the white, conceded inside the opening minute against the USA in their first fixture. That will be one lesson that they will certainly look to learn from and prevent a repeat of, hence the determination to maintain possession in these opening exchanges. Doumbouya at the back, in partnership today with Axel Dodote of Saint-Etienne, one of 3 from that particular club named in the French squad for this competition. Disappointing campaign for them that ended in Ligue 1 relegation, but they have a number of promising talents coming through the ranks on show at this UEFA Friendship Cup. 7 changes to the French starting lineup from match day 1. Everybody in the squad has to play a minimum of 60 minutes across the competition. Up to 9 substitutions permitted per team per game. Australia haven't really been able to get on the ball yet, but they are pressing high here. Early touch for Doamo, who comes in goal. Winning his first Under-18 cap for the French since September. He plays for Paris FC, also of Ivorian citizenship. Left it very late on Sunday to force that penalty shootout. They were 2 down after a minute of stoppage time and still salvaged the draw to ensure that they, like Australia, have 1 point on the board coming into this game. Australia's game with Argentina ended goalless before they lost it in the shootout. But it's the French form that has been franked somewhat by the nature of the US win against Argentina earlier. They have been dominant in possession in these opening couple of minutes of the match. The rain still coming down pretty heavily, not quite as heavily as it was. Skies overhead are a little brighter. This Colovre Sports Centre complex, the venue for every game, of course, at the competition. Directly opposite UEFA headquarters. of which the players in between match days have been given a tour. They visited a vineyard in Lake Geneva as well. All part of the educational aspect of this competition, as well as the competitive one. Here's Richard Nkomo, one of the scorers in the shootout for the young Socceroos on Sunday. Coming in to start at left back of Western Sydney Wanderers. He's the one that will take the throw for them here. Real mix in the Australian team of players that have come through the academies of A-League clubs and others already learning their trade in Europe, including the likes of James Overy at Manchester United, the right back. Ryland Brownlee of Crystal Palace, only as of March when he made the move from Brisbane. There's Bacola. Messi Tamfuri was on the move, and that wasn't far away. First threat of the game comes, 3.5 minutes in from the French. They will get a corner at the end of it. Pat Cabral is going across to Tay. Did have a couple in the penalty area here, awaiting the delivery. Just didn't quite get the angle right, but it needed to be touched behind for the corner, which is taken quickly and short. Plenty still awaiting in the box, but their presence not utilised. Certainly have the players to potentially capitalise on set pieces. Could be a big part of the story today. Messi Tamfuri, what a difference he made when coming on match day one. The 17-year-old from Strasbourg just finished his first season with them since a move from Dijon. Scored twice in a couple of appearances in the Coupe de France and made the Liga bench on 6 occasions already. He's a player with a rapidly rising reputation that he's hoping to further enhance at this competition. Already capped by France at under 19 level. No way through for De Lima. There's the switch of play by Canabaik. He's another one to keep an eye on. Manchester United have already made their move to bring him in this summer, at the end of his contract with Le Havre. That deal was reportedly agreed a couple of months ago and will happen this summer, when he will then be heading back here to Switzerland for a loan spell with Lausanne Sport, I'm told, as part of that move to further aid his development. The 18-year-old son of the former Cameroonian international Andre, making his own way in the name. You remember his dad, of course, from the 1990 World Cup, that red card against Argentina. A bit of space for Korkul. He's back in midfield today, played centre-back on match day one. Equally comfortable, really, in either position. And Como did well. Here's Brownlee. He agreed that deal to join Crystal Palace as a free agent at the turn of the year, but he had to wait until he turned 18 before completing it, so he made the move in March. Played 5 times for their under-18 side in the remainder of the season that's just finished, and he'll step up to their under-21 teams for next season. Formerly of Brisbane Roar back home. The link, by the way, is Craig Moore, the former Crystal Palace and Australian international defender, who is Ryland Brownlee's agent, and he was the one that brokered that deal. But it's a valuable competition, this one, for scouts worldwide. Paying particularly keen attention to it, I'm sure. Australia just starting to see a little more of the ball, albeit in their own part of the pitch at the moment. He does step in here, Hussein Sanley. Swiss official of Turkish descent, regular in the Swiss Challenger League. As I mentioned, he's one of 11 referees officiating at this competition. This is set to be his second and final game of it. France working hard here when they don't have the ball. Lucas Harrington, the Australian captain, returning it to his goalkeeper, Inzalako. Changes were made in the goalkeeping department coming into the competition by the young Socceroos. Jajo Janovic also called up. They're trying to call Isaac Duamo into action really for the first time. And we'll keep the pressure on from the corner. Some reward at the end of that, even though they weren't able to deliver directly into the danger area on that occasion. They may be able to do so here from the set piece. Plenty to try and aim for. And it just needs the touch. Real scramble ensues, still the danger. And wide in the end. Only just. Big chance that for Australia. Well, 2 or 3 who fancied having a go in there just couldn't quite apply the finish. A little bit panicky from those in white in getting it away. Lucas Harrington, I think it was, who had the effort that went wide in the end. The captain up from the back. Here's a player that's been capped 4 times by Australia at under 20 level already. Has played senior football in the A-League with Brisbane Roar. In fact, he's done so pretty regularly, actually. He started 15 games in it this season. No surprise to see him lead the team out today. Only 17 he might be, but already has plenty of experience at first team level. This is a good run, but the touch there was a little heavy. So Nkomo able to step in. Not for long, though. He's lost out here. Kanabayik. Just scuffed well wide in the end when other options were available. Plenty in support of that particular attack. And Zalako wasn't required. But there will be a little concern for the Socceroos over how that pressure was applied. Fast feet from Jetson Lopez. One of the European-based players for Australia. He's with Braga in Portugal. He made his international debut against Argentina in that previous game. Spent the entirety of his club career in Portugal so far, previously with Vitória Setúbal. And he stepped up this season from Braga's under-17s to the under-19s. And they just can't quite pick the final pass, but Australia beginning to grow in confidence, I suggest. Starting to see more of it as the wind howls around the Colovre Sports Centre complex here. Pitch 6 for this one. They're about to start shortly on the stadium pitch as well in the final game of match day 2. That's in the other group, in Group B, between Japan and Senegal. Guarded back by Dodote for Duamo. There was more height than there was distance on his clearance. And that was given away by Messi Tamfori. Free kick will follow for Australia in a useful position, this one. Challenged by Chauvat. He's come in at right back, Johan Chauvat. where he featured pretty frequently in the international friendlies that they played in March in preparation for this competition. They lost 2 of them pretty heavily, actually conceded 4 to both Portugal and Czechia, either side of a 2-2 draw against England. All 3 games were staged in Portugal as part of their preparations. So a couple standing over the free kick for Australia. Max Anastasio looks like he might be the favourite to take it here. I think Overy's the other one. Overy will leave it for Anastasio. Oh, they got a foot to it first, but again, wide it whistles. First to react, though, in those sort of situations, the young Socceroos. Again, Toamo wasn't required, but had that been on target, there wouldn't have been much that he could have done about it. And that's been the case on a couple of occasions already. Well defended. Overy was coming under pressure. Kept his composure, able to clear to halfway. There's Pep Cabral. The Senegal-born Monaco midfielder. He's got 3 caps, a couple of goals actually for the under-19s during European qualifying. They missed out on reaching this summer's under-19 European finals. So a number of those players that would have featured perhaps in that competition, available for this one instead. Cabral being one of those. Regular for Monaco in the UEFA Youth League this season, in which he played 7 times. Neatly done by Kanabayik. Spreading it wider for Salhi, and he will deliver the cross. Getting themselves into some useful positions in this opening quarter of an hour are the French, without yet being able to profit. Youth football development of the French at every youth level really is globally recognised for its consistency, the way that they produce elite talent. There are a number in this squad that are expected to go on to great things. And this competition will help their development as players, but also as individuals. That's the difference, really, with the Friendship Cup. Extra onus on that. It's not just about the knockout element. That's why every competing nation is guaranteed a full 4 fixtures. Australia, when they get the chance here, are pressing high, and they're causing a little bit of panic when doing so. But now maybe have left themselves a little short at the other end. Good challenge from Lucas Harrington, and it had to be. There was no margin for error in making that, but he won the ball cleanly. Did really well, the Socceroos skipper. Williams forward, a bit too far forward really for Brownlee. Set off in pursuit of it, but without the conviction that he was ever going to get close to it, Ryland Brownlee. Big prospect. He made his international debut as a second-half substitute against Argentina, and he actually missed the opening penalty at the shootout. His dad Royce also played for Brisbane Roar. They were the first ever father-son duo to both do so. Comfortable anywhere across the front 3. Valiant attempt to keep that in play, but the assistant referee on that far side is flagging to indicate it was ultimately in vain. Just gone beyond the byline. So here's Chauvat. Back from Cabral. who took over the captain's armband when Korkul went off against the USA. Those two in tandem in midfield today. Marius Korkul, who ended the Ligue 1 season as a regular starter for Angers, played 10 times for their first team last season, including starting each of the last 3 league games. Kanabayik helping it on. That's a good ball as well. The goalkeeper out quickly, doing just about enough to concede only the corner. And for a moment it looked like there might be more in there for the French. Elias Salhi, who'd continued his run forward from fullback, was nearly able to reap his reward. So here comes the corner. Cabral to take, and the goalkeeper to gather fairly comfortably. Enzalako. He turns 18 later this month. He's been with Perth Red Star since the age of 8. They play in the National Premier League's Western Australia at state level. But James Overy and Leonardo Fanari, 2 teammates in this squad, are also former Perth Red Star players. They have a little bit of history in developing young players to go on to greater things. As I mentioned, the 2 goalkeepers had to be changed from the initial squad selection because Lachlan Charles of Melbourne City and Daniel Graskowski of Melbourne Victory were required by their club teams as part of their preparations for the grand final. Conclusion of the A-League season at the weekend. They didn't feature in that final on Saturday, but they were involved in the build-up, so they weren't able to take their places in this competition. Melbourne City got the better of the Victory in the derby to claim the title. And a couple of the Australian substitutes today, Lawrence Wong and Medin Mehmeti, have just arrived. They were involved in that final. One was on the bench. Mehmeti came on as a substitute. Here's Nkomo. Well advanced from fullback for Australia. Trying to link with Ryland Brownlee. Lopez. Will probably settle for that in the circumstances as he was crowded out of it, down by the corner flag. Not much in it, is there, after the opening 20 minutes? Just a reminder, if the game's finished level, as it did for both of these nations on opening day, we go to a penalty shootout to see who will pick up an extra point. France, although they lost that shootout against the USA, were grateful to get that far, having trailed 2-0 until stoppage time, so it did ensure that they did pick up their first point, which had looked unlikely for most of the match. Whereas by contrast, Australia's game with Argentina potentially had penalties written all over it from a long way out, as it ended goalless. Can they come up with from the corner? Fairly comfortably cleared away. Nearly for Bacola, who challenge for that one as well, and does get the touch to it to get Salhi away. Korkul with the touch, almost got it back again, not quite. Marius Korkul enjoying perhaps playing much further forward than we saw him on the opening fixture, when he filled in really at centre back. Capable of playing either role, as I mentioned, but probably prefers the midfield position. We've seen evidence of why already today, but here come Australia now on the counter. Nearly for Nkomo. He's still scrapping for it and does win the ball back. Brownlee helping it on. And here's the chance, maybe. Just got back in time to keep out De Lima, who delayed a split second too long. Good intensity to the game. No, they're taking it in turns to attack. France now back on the front foot again. Back in goes the ball. Bacola to reach it. Looking for options here. Daryl Bacola of Marseille. And too high from Cabral. Always clearing the crossbar. We reach the midway point of the first half. If you are just joining us, kickoff was delayed 10 minutes because of the weather. Hasn't improved too much, but doesn't seem to be unduly affecting the entertainment, because both sides have fashioned sights of goal already in this opening quarter. Players been kept busy in between matches at this UEFA Friendship Cup as well, with the tours that I talked about, some education classes laid on for them as well. Also getting involved with the local communities, the local schools and football clubs invited to watch this competition. Increasing the community feel that surrounds it, really. That's certainly the intention. Chance for players of different countries, different cultures to get to know each other, to learn from each other, potentially develop lifelong friendships. Neatly done by the French here. Bacola. Chauvin advancing and continuing his run. He gets it back from Messi Tamfori and delivers the cross, which was cut out and cleared in one motion, really, by Lucas Harrington. And a good game so far, the highly rated Socceroos centre-back. He played in the Under-20 Asian Cup final in March. A busy summer for Australia at youth and senior international level. National team have a couple of games in Perth this month. First of them coming up tomorrow, in fact, against Japan. But here the under-18s press and probe. Daryl Bacola of Marseille. Wider for Salihi. Cross was again hung in there towards Messi Tamfori. That partnership between Salihi and Adama Baraji started on the left-hand side, having generally preferred to play on the right, where we saw him for much of the match against the USA. We'll link it with the fullback, going to be important. We've seen flashes of it already. Dumbua getting it from Dodote. Advancing a little further into Australian territory. Now with Korkul. And there's the shot which requires the save. Turned over the top by Interlaco. Did really well, the goalkeeper. He reacted smartly. It's the first time he's been significantly tested in this first half. Pep Cabral it was who had the shot, which required the goalkeeper's intervention. So here comes the corner. Fizzed in, plenty of pace on that. And it hasn't yet been dealt with. Cabral again, with space to get another shot away, and this time it is deflected over the top, and it will be another corner. Same outcome. France keeping the pressure on in pursuit of this breakthrough. The chances really are coming to Pep Cabral, who has a couple of goals at this level. And a little panicky as the corner came in, but it was ultimately effectively cleared by Australia. That defence with more work to do here. Out by Harrington this time, who rose well. But Australia struggling to get hold of the ball. Cabral has been dispossessed this time by Jetson Lopez. Switch of play was intended, I think, for Lopez, who'd continued his run, but it was just the fraction too far in front of him. A little overly ambitious from Australia, as it turned out. But underlining their confidence, maybe. Their willingness to try it. Here's Harrington again. Dispossessed by Ryan Messi Tamfori. It's a very fluent French forward line, isn't it? Players rotating roles fairly regularly. Don't have what you would call an out-and-out centre forward in the starting 11. But plenty of attacking midfield players taking it in turns really to be the furthest advanced. Canabaik was the player in that position on that occasion, but it was too far in front of him. And Zalako able to intervene comfortably. As I mentioned, the intention for Australia is for this group of players really to go all the way through together to the 2027 Under-20 World Cup. They've opted to start the cycle early, with their national teams involved elsewhere this summer. The young Socceroos are the Under-20s currently. They're coached by Trevor Morgan. They're playing a couple of friendlies in Argentina this month. Preparation for this year's Under-20 World Cup in Chile later on in 2025. They won the Asian Under-20 Cup in China earlier this year, with that victory against Saudi Arabia in the final. And then you've got the Under-17s, the Joeys, coached by Brad Maloney, who are currently in a tournament in China. In fact, they just finished it actually a couple of days ago. The Under-23s under Tony Vidmar play 2 friendlies with South Korea tomorrow and another one 4 days later. And I touched on the national team, that home game in Perth against Japan. They also play against Saudi Arabia in another qualifier on the 11th of June. They've been in a training camp since the middle of May in Abu Dhabi. Tony Popovic's team. Hung in by Messi Tamfori. The goalkeeper came a long way, reached it but couldn't hold it, but they do get the decision. Free kick in Australia's favour. I'm starting to ask more questions more frequently, though, the longer this has gone on. But for these players in the under-18s, and Australia don't usually field an under-18 team, it is a huge opportunity. Says Gary Moretti, who's head of national teams at the Australian Football Federation. Called it an exciting opportunity for the development of the group. Grateful to UEFA for the chance to be involved in it. And a chance to participate, he says, aligns perfectly with their long-term strategy, looking ahead to 2027. It's a chance not just for the players, but for the coaching staff as well, to learn plenty. Here's Johan Chauvin, the French fullback. Axel Dodot played 4 times for Saint-Étienne's B team. He play in the 5th tier of French football. He was a late addition to this squad, actually only joined up with them on Saturday morning, before coming on at half-time on Sunday morning to make his debut. That's a good ball. Salier able to provide the cross. Clearance was by Nkomo. It was Brownlee. Lopez dispossessed. Another free kick to Australia. Friendship Cup it might be, but so many of these matches that we've seen already fiercely contested. Yes, it's not just about the football, but of course, they want to win. USA will be top of the group going into the final fixture. That was given away. And here is Bacola, who's able to get the shot away. Almost deceived the goalkeeper, but Inzalako was able to react in time to stop it. Now Bacola finding himself in a really promising position. Australia will have been concerned there by the nature at which they surrendered possession. Messi Tamfori. Strong run from him. Australia defending well in those sort of situations so far. Concentration is the key, and thus far they've managed to maintain it. Even if a little further forward, that's not always been the case. And again, that's where France are doing well right now, winning possession in those sort of situations. Stronger in the duels. Bacola. And his first couple of first-team appearances for Marseille, the 17-year-old, in the season that's just finished. Congolese citizenship as well, Daryl Bacola, but he's a big prospect in this French team. Pep Cabral, likened in style to N'Golo Conte. No pressure. In by Bacola. Partially cleared by Jetson Lopez. And now maybe the counter-attack could be on for Australia. That was Arthur de Lima of Central Coast Mariners trying to spark it. But ultimately was never quite able to get away. He's played not only in the A-League this season, in which he scored 3 times, but he's made 3 appearances off the bench in the Asian Champions League as well, Arthur de Lima. In fact, he scored in the last 2 A-League matches of the season for the Mariners. Comes into this competition in really good form. Scored his first ever senior goal in the victory at Brisbane Roar by 3-1, 3 days into January. 2025 has been a year for him to remember already. Baraggi. Cabral. Here is Chauvin. Again, joining in with the attack. He's starting to do that a little more frequently now, Johan Chauvin, but there was no way 3-4 in there. Just to hurry back again. Richard Nkomo with a strong surge. Now finds himself outnumbered. The Western Sydney Wanderers left back. Plays primarily for their reserve side. One of those that hasn't quite yet managed to break through to senior football. But he's a player renowned for his versatility, his power, his athleticism. Very attack-minded fullback. We've seen that already in this first half. It's a player actually that played twice at the Under-17 Asian Cup back in the summer of 2023. So he's no stranger to the international setup. Doumbouya. Cabral stepping in to help him out. Here's Dodot. Bacola. France enjoying plenty of possession. Plenty packing the penalty area here as well. It's a really well-worked goal. France in front. Inside the last 10 minutes of this first half. Smartly taken. Really well crafted in the build-up. And it's the fullback who was in the perfect place there, Johan Chauvin, to apply that finish. Unlikely goal scorer maybe, but you wouldn't know it from the manner in which he scored it. That is the breakthrough for Les Bleus. Well, he did score 5 times for Nantes under-19s across all competitions this season. Did Johan Chauvin. 3 of those in league competition. And he's come up with a really important one potentially here for his country. France in front against Australia on match day 2 at the Friendship Cup. Australia just carved apart, really. There was a lot to admire that went on in the build-up before Chauvin found that space to do the rest with a measure of composure in advanced territory. Australia maybe weren't expecting to find the fullback there, but he's made them pay. And the game has its opening goal. And France lead at this competition for the first time, having had to come back from 2 behind in stoppage time on the opening day against the USA. It's the first goal that Australia have conceded in normal time. They ended 0-0 against Argentina in their first game before losing it on penalties. They're going to have to try and come back from behind here if they are not to sit at the bottom of Group A with just 1 game to go. A reminder that once the round-robin group stages have concluded, every team has 1 final fixture against the nation that finishes in the equivalent position in the other group to sort out their overall ranking. So the 2 group winners will meet each other in effectively the final. A couple of days off between each round of games, so they'll all play again their final group fixture on Saturday, and then it concludes next week on Tuesday with those crossover matches. 10 days of competition in Nyon. What is the second staging of the UEFA Friendship Cup, having initially been held last year in Turkey. Resounding success, so it's back this year as well, with the aim to make it an annual event. Lucas Harrington for Australia. Their aim is to try and get themselves back on terms before half-time here. They don't have an awful lot of time left to do that, but they do have some space to advance into here. Really good effort, and it's matched by the save from Duamo, who hasn't had a lot to do in this game. But when called upon, he was equal to the effort from Max Anastasio, I think it was, who had the shot. But it was Jetson Lopez that connected with power. Duamo of Paris FC makes the save. Here comes the Australian corner. That was in towards De Lima, one of the smaller players in the penalty area. It did reach him, he wasn't quite able to make the most of it though, and out from the back comes Dumbuya. Just unable to play that final pass with the precision required. Otherwise Australia could have been in trouble again. And Como. Back to Harrington. Final 5 of the first half. Match day 2 in Group A. A reminder, if you weren't with us earlier, USA 2-0 winners against Argentina in the first game of the day in this group. Here goes Pat Cabral. Into dangerous territory he goes, and it whistles across the face of that goal and eludes everybody. So Johan Chauvin on target for Landry Chauvin's team, the outgoing French coach. After 5 years working with the French Football Federation across various different youth levels, will be leaving after this. He agreed to stay on to take charge of the team at this competition. They're ahead here, and they're in the mood for more, maybe. And it goes towards Messi Tamfori, only partially cleared away, but Australia with numbers back behind the ball. And they needed them, and they may still need them. One back well by Bacola. And there will be a free kick to follow for France at the end of that, just outside the penalty area. Take some stopping. And on that occasion, according to referee Sanley, he was stopped unfairly. Getting word from the touchline that Australia are actually plotting changes. I think they will, if they possibly can, leave it until half-time. No surprise that teams do opt to make alterations at the interval in this competition. There are only 3 windows available for them to do so in the second half, despite the fact they can utilise up to 9 substitutes per match. But this has the feel of a major moment, doesn't it, for France, as they size up the set piece well within striking range. A second at this stage of the game would make a massive difference heading for half-time. Barcola may well fancy it, the player who won it. Does strike it, but it's always just travelling wide. Goalkeeper knew, I think, that he wasn't going to be required. It didn't miss by too much, but it was always just missing. So Inzalako wasn't needed. France will chalk that one down as a missed opportunity. Not quite been able to get their attacking game going, the Australians, have they? A few flashes, a few nervy moments at the back for France, but they've been somewhat isolated. General pattern of play has been in their favour at the other end, and that is the case at the moment. Kanabaik with support from Messi Tamfori. Goes back to the goal scorer Chauvin. And this is Marius Corcourt, the captain. Gets it back again. He's played in every game for this under-18 side in the current seasonal cycle. It started for them back in September. One of the few ever presents under Landry Chauvin in this team. Results-wise, the cycle has been a little underwhelming. Still searching for their first victory of it. One exception was a penalty shootout success after a 2-2 draw against Switzerland, right at the start of it in September. Included some heavy defeats, as I mentioned, against Portugal and Czechia in March, but with nothing to add on at the end of the first half here. The French are in front as they look for their opening victory of the Friendship Cup. They lead Australia by 1-0 at the break on match day 2 here in Group A. Scored 36 minutes in by the right back, Johan Chauvin. Fullback was the furthest forward to apply a really cool finish after a lovely move that had picked a way through an otherwise obdurate and impressive Australian defence. But so far the young Socceroos haven't been able to find their response. They haven't really been able to find their attacking threat in the first 45, and you would expect changes maybe by Richard Garcia as they look to switch it up in the second half. But at the break here in Nyon, it is France 1, Australia 0.
no smoking policy is in operation at the UEFA Franchise Cup 2025 tournament. Any person using tobacco or e-cigarette products inside the stadium bowl will be asked to stop immediately. Thank you for respecting the no smoking policy and enjoy the game. Une politique d'interdiction de fumer s'applique au tournoi de la Franchise Cup de l'UEFA 2025. Toute personne utilisant du tabac ou des produits d'e-cigarettes à l'intérieur de la cuvette du stade sera priée d'arrêter immédiatement. Merci de respecter la politique anti-tabac et de profiter du match. The score is level at the end of normal playing time. The winner will be determined by penalty shootouts. No extra time will be played. Si les deux équipes sont à égalité à la fin du temps réglementaire, le vainqueur sera déterminé par une séance de tir au but. Il n'y aura pas de prolongation.
So the start of the second half imminent then at the Colovre Sports Centre in Nyon here. France leading Australia by a goal to nil. Scored 9 minutes before half-time by the French right-back, Johan Chauvin. That's the strike that separates them. Australian changes are imminent at half-time here. I'm told 4 of them. You can see the replacements going through their paces at the bottom of your picture there, including the introduction of Lawrence Wong and Maiden Mehmeti, whose arrival at this tournament was delayed by their participation in the A-League Grand Final last weekend when they were involved for Melbourne City against Melbourne Victory. And they will come on for the second half here to make their first appearances at the UEFA Friendship Cup. Marcus Neal of Sunderland, who started the opening fixture, is also coming on at half-time along with Harry Crawford. Can they undo the damage inflicted by the goal from Johan Chauvin that separates them? France will feel that they are value for the lead that they currently hold. They look the more threatening the longer that first half wore on. Australia defended with diligence, but the French found that moment of quality really to find a way through, give themselves something to work with here. Changes are happening over on the far side. Jetson Lopez, Ryan Brownlee, Arthur De Lima and Max Anastasio all coming off. And Australia will get the second half underway. So here we go then for the second period. The young Socceroos with it all to do. But the French lead is still a slender one. And they themselves showed that anything is possible in this competition with the way they battled back from 2 behind to score twice in stoppage time and force the penalty shootout on Sunday in their opening game against the USA. That's a little loose though. Australia surrendering possession in dangerous territory right at the start of this second half. And so Kanabayi taking over. You can see those substitutions that happened at half-time that I mentioned going across the bottom of your screen. Harry Crawford of Adelaide United, who also started their opening game against Argentina, on in place of Jetson Lopez. Might mean a little bit of a reshuffle as well. Crawford more of an attacking out-and-out striker really. Marcus Neal is on for Ryan Brownlee, one English-based player replacing another. And a good season with Sunderland. Marcus Neal scored 16 times in just 22 appearances in the under-18 Premier League. Scored in the under-21 competition as well, Premier League 2, against Arsenal for Sunderland did Marcus Neal, son of Lucas. Australian international of real repute. That was a really threatening ball, and it could have bounced anywhere really. On another day that might have spun the other side of the post. Instead it's behind for the corner, to the relief of Isaac Douamo in that French goal. First threat of the second half is provided by the young Socceroos. They'll try and keep the pressure on here with the corner kick to come. Looking to make something of a statement at the start of the second half. Referee with a little bit of sorting out to do first here before he's content to blow the whistle and allow the corner to come. Plenty of players packed on the edge of the penalty area there. In it goes, and it was a chance. Couldn't divert it goalward. Still may be the opening for Australia with Harrington, the captain, with back to goal. Crawford, his first real involvement, Harry Crawford, since coming on. Couldn't quite create the space for the cross. Still the opportunity here for Australia, dominating the territory since the restart. going to try and claim another corner. They won't get it this time, no goal kick given. But if anything, they've significantly strengthened Australia with the changes that they've made. Lawrence Wong and Maiden Mehmeti, later rivals at the competition, but they come with real pedigree. Wong started 4 games in the Australian A-League, the youngest ever scorer in Melbourne City's history. And Mehmeti featured even more frequently in the competition, scored 5 times. He came off the bench to play in the grand final in the derby against Victory, which they won by 1-0. That's given away, straight to Crawford. Just overhit that one a little bit though, Duamo able to come and gather bravely. Of course, France are without their Paris Saint-Germain contingent. Should point that out at this juncture, because they are involved in the Under-19 National Championship final that takes place on Sunday. They will play Nantes, Championnat National, which has deprived them of the services of the likes of Axel Tappé and Mohan Kamara. But here they come, looking to try and double their lead. Cool, teeing one up. It was quickly closed down, which made it a little bit more difficult than it might have been for the captain, and it was always just clearing the crossbar. The PSG pair that I referenced were initially named in the squad by Landré Chauvin, but they weren't able to take their places with their teammates. And there's still no Mathis de Tourbay available of Troyes. Played regularly for them in Ligue 1 this season, because he was actually named in the extended provisional squad for the European Under-21 Championship this summer, which starts next week. Well, France opted not to make a change at half-time, but they are switching things up here. And they're going to bring on Louan Gadabeku in place of Korkul. So that involvement that we saw a moment ago will be his last of the game, replaced by the highly rated Gadabeku of Saint-Etienne. Confirmation of that change. He's the one actually that missed the crucial final penalty in the shootout against the USA. Unfortunately crashed it against the crossbar on Sunday, so he's on. And that should be a like-for-like change in the heart of the French midfield, coming just 5 minutes into this second half. And a reminder, there are only 3 substitution windows available in the second half to make changes, so France have just used one of them for a solitary switch. Tyler Williams to James Overy, highly rated Manchester United fullback. Actually played for Manchester United's under-21s in Premier League 2, having been a relative regular at under-18 level. He's a Scottish under-19 international, qualified for them through his mum. He'll look to get a bit more involved in this second half as Crawford tries to pick his way through. Outnumbered about 4-1 by the French defence, but was still able to get his shot away, was Harry Crawford, albeit without the menace behind it to unduly extend Duamo. But there is more attacking intent from Australia in evidence already since the turnaround. Here's Salhi, he's got a bit of room in which to work. And he's covered that ground very quickly here, here's Salhi, with support either side. Messi Tamfori looking to link with Bakola. Messi Tamfori. Again, he was trying to pick the pass to play that back into the path of Daryl Bakola, and was not really afforded the space to do so. Free kick given in front of the coaching staff there. Familiar name, of course, in charge of Australia, Richard Garcia, former manager of Perth Glory, but spent a lot of his playing career in English football, having joined West Ham as a 15-year-old when he, as the story goes, been spotted by a scout who'd gone to watch his brother play. Signed professionally with the Hammers back in 1998. He won the FA Youth Cup in his first season with them as a player. He scored in every round, famously, of their run to the final. Went on to play 16 league games for them. Spells with Colchester and Hull City in English football as well. Still good friends, I'm told, from his West Ham days with Michael Carrick. They were ushers at each other's weddings. Carrick, who's just departed a Middlesbrough job earlier today. France just overrunning it again. Said that a couple of times in the second half. Richard Garcia assisted, by the way, with the Australian side by the English-born Warren Moon. Player who was born in Gravesend in England, actually. Brought up in Brisbane. He's played everywhere from Queensland Roar to Queen of the South in Scotland. And managed Papua New Guinea until last year. He's part of the Australian coaching staff. Danny Milosevic, the goalkeeping coach, was on the books of Leeds and Celtic as well. Stories wherever you look at this competition. And as I touched on, it's a great learning opportunity for the coaches as well as the players. Facing nations that they wouldn't ordinarily do regularly. Different tactics, different cultures. There hasn't been too much between these two so far. France's narrow lead still intact, but Australia giving as good as they're getting at the moment. Tyler Williams of Sydney FC. He's one kept at under 20 level already. Debuted against China in November. Salhi. Pat Cabral. Australia well organised when they don't have the ball. Plenty of numbers back there. But at some stage they're going to have to maybe take a few more risks in pursuit of parity. The time for that is not necessarily yet, though. Can ill afford the concession of a second at this stage. France patient here in possession, high up the pitch. That's a better ball in behind, nearly came for Kanabaik. Mametti was calling for that. The ball to him was on. They weren't able to squeeze it through to him. And instead it's Bacola for France. Barassi on the move ahead of him. Now Cabral to have a go. Always just too high. And he knew it really from the moment that it left his boot. Xavier Smith's going to come on shortly for Australia. And there'll be a change at left back. Richard Nkomo, the player set to be replaced. Reminder that they made 4 alterations at the interval. Smith, another of the English-based players. He's on the books at League 2 side, 4th-tier side Crewe Alexandra. And he has been for the last 10 years or so. Yet to make a senior debut for them, the 18-year-old left-back. Capped 3 times by Australia at under 17 level.
Substitution for Australia, number 16 is being replaced.
And his first duty, having just come on here, will be to join that defence to face the free kick. Played a couple of times for Crewe in the FA Youth Cup in the season that's just finished. In fact, he scored actually in a penalty shootout in that competition. Australia might settle for another penalty shootout here. Put out Luton Town in round 3 of the FA Youth Cup, did Crewe. Smith played his part in that. He was briefly at Liverpool as a kid as well, but as I said, that was a long time ago. There's the longer ball, but nobody advanced enough to be able to even threaten to get on the end of it. James Overy. well to reach that. Cross cut out by Dodot. Finally balanced again right now. Well, they were hoping to try and force the corner, were Australia, but they've not been able to. Back in action on Saturday, the final round of group fixtures. Australia will play the current leaders, the USA. Argentina up next for France, who advance here with Baraggi. It is going to reach him. Adama Baraggi just delayed the shot. Goalkeeper spills it, but is just able to recover the situation and grab it on the goal line. Is Interlaco. Made a little bit of a meal of it, but ultimately did enough to stop Adama Baraggi. Couple of goals for France at under 16 level for the Roms player. He spent most of the season with their B team, playing in the 5th tier of French football. Still looking for a first under 18s goal. As we head for the hour mark, it wouldn't be a surprise to see further French changes shortly. They've made just the one so far. Salhi, here is Baraggi. And he's away from Overy. Baraggi going through the gears rapidly. He was unselfish. Salhi shot charged down. We've seen one fullback score for France already. The other popping up in a promising position there, trying to do likewise, Ilyas Salhi. But the Australian injury has brought about the stoppage in play. The bench just waiting for word over the seriousness or otherwise of the injury. I think he's going to be okay. Overy again, forward first time from the fullback. Was up towards Neil. Gavik Beku. Cut out by Overy. Played for Scotland's under-19s as recently as March, actually, in a friendly against Sweden. Under Neil McFarlane. And he joined Manchester United last summer. Previously at Perth Glory. His home city side. Family relocated to England in 2023 when he was 15. Had a spell actually playing in the Southwest Peninsula League with Newton Abbot Spurs before joining Manchester United on the scholarship terms. Not everybody that makes that particular move, is it? France content to afford Australia possession in this part of the pitch at the moment, just taking a little bit of a collective breather perhaps, before having then to try and deal with the long ball. Baraggi. Canabaik. He's the one really of the French front line that seems to have been given the licence to roam. Wherever he feels he can do the most damage, he has won France a free kick. They're not hanging around, keeping the tempo high here. Doumbouya, like Salhi, plays his club football for Nice. Those two coming through the ranks together. Pat Cabral. That's a good ball in towards Canabaik. Cabral, again it's over the top. Had to take it quickly and just rushed it a little bit. But if anything, the best sights of goal for France are falling to Pat Cabral. Not necessarily the player that ideally they would want on the end of them. Does have a goal in him, but it's not noted as his major strength in the side. Certainly in comparison to some of the others, but he's the one that's been in the right position so far. 3 or 4 that have now cleared the crossbar. Lawrence Wong leaves it to Overy. Cabral steps in, picking up the pieces. He's certainly adept at doing that. And that N'Golo Conte type role that I talked about. Certainly important in helping make this team tick. Former under-16 regular. There's Baraji. Salihi does reach him. Salihi to the byline, asking the questions with the cross. Bacola is content to let it go for the throw, which he takes himself quickly for Baraji. Keeping the intensity high here. Pat Cabral again. Now with the goal scorer Chauvin. Canabaik. Baraji. He's looking a bit more threatening now. There's Adama Baraji. Overy with him, preventing him from delivering the cross. Instead it's slung in instead by Salihi. They've generally defended those well, the young Socceroos, and they've needed to. Pat Cabral. A little bit of space for him, opted against the shot this time. Gets it back again from Chauvin. Cabral. Johan Chauvin. Here's Bacola. Cabral pulling the strings. Gadek Becky switching the play. He's put a bit too much on that for Salihi. Just couldn't quite reach it on the touchline. We're going to see French changes shortly. At least a couple of them. Kept in just by a Baraji. Strong challenge that stopped him though, albeit at the expense of the corner. These changes will probably wait until after the corner kick. Robinho Vaz and Nadir El Jamali are coming on. In fact, they will happen here, I think. They both started the opening game against the USA. Making way Enzo Canabaik and Rain Messi Tamfori. There's Salihi to deliver the cross after the corner was touched in his direction. It's Crawford back defending, but France still have possession. Bacola to Cabral. Elias Salihi. Another strong game, having played the full match on match day one. Slips that one back through, and that was nearly, but not quite. They're in charge again just at the moment, aren't they, France here? In search of the second. Now it opens up again for Salihi. Didn't quite carry through to the keeper this time. Australia had got everybody bar two back defending that. So the change happens here at the midway point of the second half, and the France lead is still a fragile one for all the current authority that they have on proceedings. They haven't been able to further reflect that on the scoreboard.
Substitution for France. Number 18 is being replaced by number 10.
So Nadir El Jamali is another of the St Etienne contingent that's just come on. He's just signed his first professional contract actually at club level. He's also played for Morocco at under 18 level. Been training with St Etienne's first team. And Robinho Vaz has played 3 times for Marseille's first team. Clubmate of Daryl Bacola. Just finished his first season with Marseille, having signed from Sochaux. He's on as well. He made his under-18 debut on match day 1. So France freshening it up a little further forward and looking to get Baragi away here. Would have done but for Overy. He did well. That'll be a free kick right in front of the referee, that one, as Harry Crawford went down. USA 2-0 winners against Argentina in this group earlier today. They will provide the opposition for Australia on match day 3 on Saturday. USA guaranteed to be top of the group going into that game. They're on 5 points so far. The most that either of these teams can reach is 4. France currently on course to do that. It would leave Australia bottom of the section with a game to play, should it stay this way. But it's still a big if at this point, isn't it, as the cross comes in. It's a dangerous one, and it required the save from Delamo, who's down to his right to stop it. Relatively routine in the end, but he would certainly have been concerned when that ball came across, and a couple of Australian players to pick out in the penalty area. It was a free header really for Crawford that drew the save, and having put himself in that position, Harry Crawford would have been a little disappointed not to have made more of it. Bacola nearly overran it, but gets a foot to it first and gets it back quickly from Salhi. It's a good ball. As was that, and the attempt at the finish was from Robinho Vaz. One of his first touches since coming on, and he's put it wide. Nonchalant little flick goalwards really by Vaz, but wide it went. Delamo at the other end deals with that one coolly enough. And we go into the last 20 minutes of what's been a really absorbing contest. Keenly contested between two nations with not a lot between them, from what we've seen so far. France still value for the lead that they hold, but they've not been able to extend it, not been able to build on it. And there's still the feeling that Australia will get a chance or two yet to try and level this. Goalkeeper put under pressure, and Zalako utilises the option provided to him by James Overy. Strong challenge came in on him on the touchline by Gadek Beku. That's a clever ball, and it's a well-timed run, or is it not quite well-timed enough? The run from Marcus Neal, because the offside flag has gone up against him. Wonderful season he had with Sunderland, the 17-year-old. Goal-laden season, really. 16 times he scored in the under-18 Premier League. Space for Salhi, plenty of it as well. Ilyas Salhi tries to provide the cross. Might have been tempted to take it on himself. The door was closed just in time, as it turned out. They haven't really been able to get the aforementioned Marcus Neal into it too frequently since he came on, having Australia. Dad Lucas won just the 96 senior caps. He's just finished a first full season with Sunderland. He joined them as a 15-year-old on a free from Liverpool, where he was previously in the youth ranks. He scored a hat-trick against Liverpool for the under-18s in a 6-1 win in April. Later that month, in the next game, he scored 4 in a 7-2 victory. Corner comfortably claimed here by Nzalaka. Touching there for Quinn McNichol, who's operated really on the periphery so far, the Brisbane Roar player. Their youngest ever player, their youngest ever goal scorer in their A-League history. Overy was calling for it. I'm hearing that he's going to be the next to make way in a further Australian change shortly. I'll get Leonardo Fanorini, the Cagliari right back on in his place. Hasn't happened yet, but it's about to. Fanari at the top of your picture, waiting for his introduction. He's one of the former Perth Red Star players that's now based in Italy. John Cagliari back in September. He was a late caller to this squad. He did come off the bench on match day 1 as well. And he does so again here, taking the place of James Overy at right back. Forward it goes, towards Neil, who goes down, looks hopefully in the referee's direction. And nothing doing, says Hussein Stanley. Bacola for France. Chauvin, still his goal the difference. 9 minutes from the end of the first half. Bacola, oh, he's done well to turn into space. Dances goalwards. Didn't quite come back to him, but it does for Cabral. Wider for Baragi. Adama Baragi with a sight of goal, and he scores brilliantly to double the French lead and maybe make it safe. 2-0, lovely goal. A first at under-18 international level for Adama Baragi of Ross. And that might just make all the difference. France, of course, themselves proved that a 2-0 lead is not always enough when they scored twice in stoppage time to force the penalty shootout on Sunday against the USA, but this is a role reversal now, and that did have the feeling of a decisive moment as he picked out that far corner. It's going to be his last contribution, actually, because I think in the immediate aftermath of the goal, he's coming off here to be replaced by Mustafa Sissoko. And he'll have a little longer to reflect on that moment whilst he watches the conclusion. Took it really well. Australia paid a big price for showing him inside. We've seen already how he likes to do that. Looking to get that sight of goal for himself. And when it opened up, how he made the most of it. So Baragi celebrates the goal and immediately makes his way to the sidelines as he's replaced by Sissoko of Le Havre. He was a starter at right back in the opening game. The goal coming a quarter of an hour from the end of the 90. It was the last contribution. Something of a mic drop from Baragi as he makes way. A long way back for Australia from here. On the move is Daryl Bacola. Looking to set France completely out of sight. If they can pick a way in behind and find the third. They still have the opportunity to do so. Cabral came back to him quickly, and that's brilliant! El Jamali makes it 3-0. And they scored 2 in a little over a minute. Once again finding that far corner. Top corner this time from Nadir El Jamali. And surely that settles the 3 points in favour of the French with their third goal. El Jamali, brought off the bench in this second half, has scored a memorable goal. They really are now racing clear, underlining their authority. It is more than reflected in the scoreline now. It wasn't a couple of minutes ago, but when France score, they tend to score more than once in quick succession in this competition. That's been the case in each of their first 2 fixtures. Now they left it until stoppage time on Sunday. They've done so a little earlier here. 3-0. Doamo comes and gathers that one up as Australia somehow try and clear their collective heads. and look for some sort of response. They hadn't quite really recovered, I don't think, Australia, from the disappointment of conceding the second goal, as they then let in the third as well. They've just made their final changes. Haynes has been replaced by Dylan Leonard. Quinn McNichol making way as well. Alessio Genova is on. That's it for Australia in terms of their substitutions now. And surely that's it as far as the winners of this game are concerned. The question now is how many for France? Really only a matter of the margin. Unless there is the most dramatic of last 10 minutes. You wouldn't put anything beyond them in this UEFA Friendship Cup, but it's unlikely for Australia in the extreme from here. Robinho Vaz. And they'll all want to get in on the act now for France. In front of goal. El Jamali, the one who made it 3. Scored 3 times for Saint Etienne's B team in the French 5th tier this season. Scored a lovely goal for his national side. And they do want more here. Bacola. That one overhit. Didn't quite come for Daryl Bacola in the end. Last 10 minutes of the 90. France 3 up.
Substitution for Australia. Number 6 is being replaced by number 4.
So these are the Australian changes happening here. Their last couple of alterations. Alessio Genova is one of the European-based players with Cittadella in Italy. Plays for their under-19 Primavera 2 team, having left Sydney at the start of 2023 to try and make his way in the European game. And that's where this competition is so invaluable for those still maybe based back home, a chance to experience a different footballing culture on and off the field. They will learn lessons, that is for sure. That is very much the intention. Confidence high now for France. They can knock it around with conviction on the edge of their own penalty area. Well, the tournament delivered through the UEFA Together development programme, sharing the experiences and the knowledge of UEFA and its member associations with FIFA's 5 other confederations. The aim to contribute to the global development of the game that we all love. A really important place on the calendar for competitions like these. What's a really busy time in international football. Of course, disappointment for France at the weekend at under-17 level when they lost to Portugal in the final of the European Under-17 Championship, having finished above them in the group stage, falling just short in that competition. But the under-18s, 3 up on Australia today. We'll take them to 4 points if it stays this way in Group A. Behind the USA. Two points ahead of Argentina, 3 points ahead of Australia, with 1 group game still to go. And then wherever you finish in the section, you will play the team that finishes in the same position from the other group in a crossover game next Tuesday to sort out the overall standings. And then everybody gets together for a medal presentation and a barbecue in the spirit of the Friendship Cup. Let's hope that the weather on Tuesday is a little bit better than it has been today for that barbecue. Putting the pressure on here was Fanari, touching there for Crawford, nearly for Neil. France will certainly want the clean sheet as well, hence the numbers that they were swiftly able to assemble back behind the ball. Determined to hold on to the shutout. They have leaked a lot of goals, this under-18 team, over the course of the season. Twice in the last 4 games they've conceded 4, but they're looking to score 4 of their own this time. Daryl Bacola. Still continuing to stretch the Australian defence as he has throughout. And getting it back again here. Linking with the fullback Salhi. Cross goal it goes from him. Looks lively though, Bacola, doesn't he? And he made his Liga debut in January. Came on in the last minute of a defeat at the champions Paris Saint-Germain in March as well. He remains to the fore for France, heading into the final 5 minutes now of the 90. Here he is again, Bacola. If anything, he's seeing even more of it the longer the game has gone on. Unable to cut that one back. Just about got the better of Xavier Smith. Still plenty forward for France. And in it goes towards Robinho Vaz, who couldn't quite reach it. Acrobatic attempt from him to do so. The French number 9. From almost right on the goal line there. But it just evaded him. He made his Liga debut, notably for Marseille, as a half-time substitute against Strasbourg in January. Came on for Neil Maupay and won a penalty. Mason Greenwood scored it for an equalising goal. He's gone on to play 3 times now already for Marseille's first team as Vaz. Joined from Sochaux last summer. 6 goals for their B team in the 5th tier as well this season from just 10 appearances. Geneva for Australia. Crowded out of it over on that far side. Is there to be anything in this for the young Socceroos? Still yet to score at this Friendship Cup. 0-0 enough for the penalty shootout against Argentina at the weekend in what was the opening game of the competition, which they lost 4-3 on penalties. They struggled to create clear-cut chances in that game, and it's been a similar story really today. The difference being they've been punished more ruthlessly at the other end than Argentina were able to manage. Now this might be promising for them. It looked for a moment as if it might have fallen for Marcus Neal, but Doamo was out quickly to reach it first. Most of the goalkeeper's work has been routine, but when he has been called upon, he's impressed. Isaac Doamo. He's winning our first under-18 cap actually since September. He's not been the first choice recently. Ayoub Akabu got the nod on match day 1. Here come France in search of their 4th goal again. They'll get a corner. Akabu on the bench today. A reminder that everybody in the squad has to play a minimum of 60 minutes across the competition. So there's always likely to be one game where all the competing nations do turn to their backup goalkeeper. Bacola looking to bend one. Chauvin is going to reach that first. Comes under pressure, hopes for the free kick, but it's actually gone the other way. Doesn't need to be the urgency though for Les Bleus. They have won it back well here. It was given away a little carelessly. Vaz to Bacola, and I think his intention was to return it back again towards Robinho Vaz, but it didn't quite get that far, for which Australia will be grateful. We're in the last of the 90 minutes now. There's going to be at least 3 more to add on once we get that far. Here's Crawford. He did well to skip to the byline and to cut the ball back in towards Marcus Neal. But again, nothing at the end of it for Australia. And that has really summed up their story so far, and it does appear as if that is likely to remain the case. Cabral. This time it's France who've lost it, but not for long. In steps Pat Cabral again. So into additional time we go in Nyon. That's the third of today's 4 fixtures, and those 3 additional minutes of it confirmed. 3 more minutes. With France in complete command at 3-0. But only really going into the closing quarter of an hour has this been settled decisively in their favour. Well, they wanted the free kick. Bacola took matters into his own hands quite literally there by grabbing hold of the ball, and for that he's picked up a yellow card, and that's the first time actually in the game that the referee has reached for his pocket, and he's waited until stoppage time to do so, and it's one that Bacola will probably feel could have been avoided. That one hoisted in high by Fanari. Whistle has gone, and well, this is all a little bit unnecessary right at the end. It's been played in such a good spirit as these games have throughout this Friendship Cup, but that wasn't particularly friendly right at the end. And hopefully it will all be sorted out quickly and simmered down quickly. The card is out again. Possibly more than once there, given what went on. A little bit of pushing and shoving on the goal line that got out of hand, only briefly. Lucas Harrington. Australia really appeared beaten as soon as the second went in, but when the third followed so swiftly afterwards, then it really was beyond doubt. Less than 3 minutes between the goals. Those cautions, by the way, picked up, as we saw, by Bacola, but also by the goalkeeper, I think, Isaac Doamo. Also received a yellow in there. So too did Marcus Neal of Australia. There was a yellow apiece for that little fracas at the finish. Cabral. And that's full time. That's a comfortable win in the end for the French. They had to wait to make their dominance count, really, having got themselves in front in the first half thanks to Johan Chauvin's goal. That's the way it stayed going into the closing quarter of an hour before a fine finish from Adama Baraji made it 2. And it was only a couple of minutes later when the substitute Nader El Jamali stuck one into that same far top corner to finish off Australia. France comfortable winners to move up to 4 points and second place in Group A. 2 games into their campaign at the UEFA Friendship Cup. Australia, who picked up a point on opening day, are still yet to score in the competition, and they couldn't find their threat. 8 attempts on target to 5 in French favour. They dominated the possession to a certain extent as well. Dominator a little harsh maybe on Australia, but they had more of the ball. Did Les Bleus. More of the chances, and 2 fine finishes in the second half, getting the job done and getting their competition really up and running with an impressive victory before they finish against Argentina in the group stages on Saturday, when the group leaders, the USA, await Australia. Excellent entertainment on pitch 6 at the Colovre Sports Centre here in Nyon. But France with that little bit of extra quality in the final third, making it count, and they are the ones able to celebrate the victory. And we'll leave you with a full-time score of France 3, Australia 0.